man, I don't want to get upset. I'm not upset. I just hate these types of takes. If anything, they mildly annoy me.
I want some nasty. Are we having fun yet?
All right, so we've had people talk about Victor Wembanyama, some good, some bad. Who am I kidding? Most great, some very few, minimal bad, okay? And this take that we're going to be looking at, or at least reading, I don't necessarily think that he's hating. When we talk about Shaquille O'Neal, he's someone that I'm just not going to be very charitable towards because he has been so adamant to go after other big men, not necessarily giving Tim Duncan his flowers as often as I think he probably should, right? Especially how they were competing. That was like his real challenge back in the day. But yeah, he doesn't really do that. So I'm not very charitable towards him, how he goes after big men. So if he has anything to say about Wemby, I'm like, what are you getting at, right? And he's been doing it over and over, comparing him to Bobo and all that nonsense. But Ralph Sampson is who we're going to be looking at today. And this take, I don't like it. I don't think that he's hating, but I don't like it. Just want to preface everything by saying that. So this is from Spurs Reporter. Big shout out to Spurs Reporter here. It says, former NBA star Ralph Sampson suggests that Victor Wembanyama's job might be easier because he isn't going up against strong low post players as there were during his time. He's playing against little people, not real men that will beat your A in the post. So this is the full quote. He's playing against little people, so the game is totally different. We had to play against guys here like Terry Cummings, AC Green, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Artis Gilmore. You got real men that will beat your A in the post. So, yeah, I mean, okay. Okay, so here's the thing. I hate when we take like modern players and put them in former circumstances. First and foremost, I'm not someone that buys into the fact that, or the idea that the NBA today is worse than it was before. There's some give and take, right? Yeah, you can't punch somebody in the mouth and not get suspended for a week, right? You can't do that anymore. But at the same time, today's NBA is much more skilled, right? It's much more fun to watch than some of the games that you would have got from the 80s or 90s. Not saying that I'm saying that those teams back then were trash or they're garbage or they couldn't survive today. I think everything is contextual, right? So we can't take someone like Victor Wembanyama, who is a product of the direction that NBA has gone in, is a product of the guys that he grew up watching, and to say, oh, he wouldn't survive in that time. It's like everything's a building block, and who he looked up to or who he played like, and who players currently play like, it's totally different, right? Ralph Sampson had his own influences coming up, and the way that coaches teach players and the way that they approach the game is just different. So I just don't like it. I don't think you can just take players and say, would he survive in this time? Would he survive in this time? I think any great player at that time, wherever you put them, would have been totally fine, right? But they would have looked like a different player. So I just hate this where it's like, yeah, he's going against little guys, but man, he wanted to survive back then. It's okay. Victor Wembanyama would have had a hard time with Shaquille O'Neal, but Shaquille O'Neal would have had a hard time with Victor Wembanyama. But you know what? We wouldn't have a Victor Wembanyama if it weren't for some of the players that have influenced him and some of the players that influence the game. It's just a silly argument. It's like taking Steph Curry and saying, because Steph Curry have survived in the 80s, I don't know, there wouldn't have been a Steph Curry in the 80s. It's just frustrating. It's just absolutely frustrating. And I hate that they constantly do this. And I feel like a lot of players also praise things about the game that has nothing to do with basketball, right? I'm not saying that he's doing it here, because the guys that he named are truly skilled players. But sometimes I've heard people say, well, back in the day, people were just tougher. They would just fight you on the court. What does that have to do with basketball? Or people bring up the bad boy Pistons, and I'm like, what does that have to do with basketball? The Bad Boy Pistons played a terrible brand of defense. I mean, just go back and watch the game. They played terrible brand of defense. It was awful. That is not. It's good that we don't do that anymore. But at the same time, I'm not taking away from anybody, right? Like I always say, Michael Jordan is my GOAT. I didn't grow up watching him, but I was able to go back and watch games, and I mean, they're all out there. And it's like, whoa, this dude was something serious, right? So I think that's my GOAT. And, you know, he comes from an era which is not that long ago, but it is an era that was different brand of basketball. But yeah, you can't just throw, you know, claims like this and just say, oh, well, it's because he's going against little people. Well, I mean, yeah, he's just a product of what the direction NBA has gone in, just like you're a product of what the NBA was, you know, prior to you. So you guys let me know what you think. That's just, those are my thoughts. It's just, I just hate it. I hate it. I hate arguments like this. But not saying Ralph Sampson's hating or anything like that. I'm not saying any of that. It's not like what he said is false. I mean, yeah, Wemby isn't going against Kareem. I don't know. I mean, he's not. So, I don't know. Let me know what you think. I just wanted to go over this and just kind of rant a little bit and just, I don't know, put my thoughts out there. But I'll get with you guys later, man. Sorry for the rambling, but love you guys. Talk to you later. Bye.